I'm going to show you two things in this video. One is a review of how to turn fractions into decimals, and the second is how to order decimals. Now, turning fractions into decimals, there's actually a lot of ways to do it, and some of them can be mental math or simple, but I'm going to show you how to do it with long division only because it works every single time. Even though it's a lot of work, you don't have to think about it. You just have to do the steps. So we'll focus on that now, and then we can look at the other ways later. Okay, so 15/60ths. My reminders are down here. The numerator goes inside the bracket. So you draw your long division, you put 15 inside, and then 60 on the outside, and then you just follow your steps like normal. Does 60 go into 1? It does not. Does 60 go into 15? It does not. So those are X's. Now, I want to keep going though. I want to turn this into a decimal. So instead of just 15 ones, I can make this 15 ones and 0 tenths. It does not change my number. Okay, so does 60 go into 150? I'm sure it does. 60 plus 60 is 120, right? So I think it goes in 2 times. So I put a 2 here. Oh, you also have to put the decimal up on the answer line. Then 60 times 2 is 120. Okay, but still, I do not want a remainder. I don't want this 30, so I'm going to add another 0 to the original number, and I'm going to bring it down and make it 300. Does 60 go into 300? Well, I know 6 times 5 is 30, so 60 times 5 would be 300. So it goes in 5 times. And then we subtract the 300. And that's it. So 15/60ths is the same as 25/100ths. Now, like I said, there are other ways to do this that might actually be quicker, but they don't work for every fraction. And some of the fractions you had on your worksheets were pretty wild. So I think it's smartest to use a strategy that will work every single time. We're going to do another problem where we have a mixed number. Okay, so a problem like this, 2 and 14/80ths. Now, this at first might seem tricky. Or 2, what the heck do I do with the 2? But we know the 2 is a whole number. So the 2 we can just hold it off for now. And we know in our answer it's going to be 2 point whatever our decimal is. So we actually don't have to do anything with 2. It's just the 2 is there to, trick you. But it's a whole number and it will stay a whole number. You don't turn a whole number into a decimal. So we just do what we know to do with the 14/80ths. Remember, our numerator goes inside of the bracket. So I put 14 here, and I put 80 here. Now, the hardest thing about this is actually just doing the division with the large numbers, right? So does 14 go into 1? It does not, so I exit. Does 80 go into 1? No, I exit. Does 80 go into 14? No, I exit. But I want to keep going, so I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. And then I put a decimal up here. Does 80 go into 140? Well, 80, 160. So 2 times is too much, right? So it goes in 1 time. So I put a 1 here. 80 times 1 is 80. All right. I subtract this. I get 140 minus 80 is 60. But I don't want a remainder, so I'm going to add a 0. And I'm going to bring it down. Now, does 80 go into 60? Sure. And I'm going to think of it as 8 and 6. Or does 80 go into 600? But I'm going to think of it as 8 and 60. I know 8 times 7 is 56. So 80 times 7 would be 560. So I'm going to put a 7 there. And again, that's the hardest part of this, is figuring out how many times a large number goes into another large number. So 80 times 7 is 560. I subtract that. Then, oh my God, sorry, it's so sloppy. I'm going to get 40. I don't want to stop. I had a 0. But this 40 is going to be very friendly. Oh my God, look at that crazy writing here. Now, does 80 go into 400? It sure does. 8 times 5 is 40, so 80 times 5 is 400. And our decimal is 175 thousandths, 0.175. But remember, we have that whole number too. So our final answer is 2.175. So what I would do is pause the video and think about this. Okay, I'll give you 2 problems on the next slide to do. So why don't you do these 2 problems, 13/40ths and 5 8/20ths. Okay, then I'm going to talk to you about ordering decimals, but I would pause, do this, take a break, think about it, and then come back and watch the ordering decimals. Okay, so when you are trying to compare decimals or order decimals, the first thing you need to understand is that any number, the further left you look, the digit value is bigger. So, if you think about 389, right? The digit here, the 3, is worth more than the 9. The 3 is worth 300. The 9 is worth 9. It works like that in decimals. The further left you look, closer to the decimal, the value is bigger. Okay, so if you think of 389 versus 99, 389 is still bigger because there's a 3 in the hundreds place, right? We know the hundreds place is greater, and it's the same thing with decimals. So when you're ordering decimals, what I would like you to do is I want you to just draw your own place value chart. I want you to put a decimal, and then I want you to put a line. That's going to be the 10th. Hopefully your line's straighter than that. So you're going to have the tenths here. You're going to have the hundreds. Oh my God. My mouse is acting crazy, Mia. You're going to have the tenths, hundreds, and thousandths. Oof. So then when we put a number in here, anything in the tenths, that's the greater value. So we start there and we compare to the right. So if I had 0.71, I'd put that in my makeshift place value chart versus 0.299. And what you'll notice, you know what I think it is? I just figured it out. I'm using my mouse on a white table. That's why it's not picking up the movements. Sorry, it's been so sloppy. So let me finish that. 299. Okay. Now, I want to compare them, and I start in the tenths because anything to the left is a greater value. So 7 tenths versus 2 tenths. That's greater. 7 tenths is greater. So 0.71 is a larger number. Even though 299 sounds bigger than 71, it's a fraction. It's 299 thousandths. And 71 hundredths is a larger portion. Okay, so you always start at the left and then move to the right. We'll do one more. Okay, so here we have 0.38 or 38 hundredths versus 0.302 or 302 thousandths. So I want you to make your decimal, and then you're going to make your makeshift place value chart. So you're going to have your tenths, your hundredths, and your thousandths. And then you just put them in. So you have 38 hundredths, and then you have 300 to thousandths. Then to compare them, we go from left to right. So you look at the digit in the left, 3/10, 3/10. They're tied. Okay? If they're tied, we move on. Now we're in the hundredths. 800ths versus 0 hundredths. 800ths is more. Okay, so we don't even have to look to the thousands. 800ths is more. So 3800ths is a larger number. Again, 302 seems bigger than 38, but it's a fraction. 302 thousandths is smaller than 38 hundredths. All right. Good luck tomorrow. I hope these two videos help. All right. Thank you, Mia. Bye-bye.